Sourdough. Look at these bubbles. Hi, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today I'm going to show you guys how to make your own sourdough starter. I was thinking maybe I can start like a fun fermentation series. I don't really know what to call it. I was thinking like Fermentation Friday, but then that would mean I have to post on Friday all the time. And I'm not too sure about that one yet. You should comment down below and just like give me a fermentation series title idea. Yeah, cool. I have made my own sourdough starter for you guys. I wanted to try it out to see how hard it was and also to see if I could do it, and I did it. I ended up using bleached flour just because I wasn't able to find any unbleached all-purpose flour. You can use bleached flour, unbleached flour, whole grain flour, whatever you want. If you are lucky enough to get whole grain or unbleached flour, it'll take a lot less time for your sourdough to develop. So the bleaching process removes a lot of the nutrients, and then that doesn't give as much food for the sourdough to grow. It does not get fed, so it does not grow. Anyways, so mine ended up taking around 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, while most sourdough guides say that it should be ready within a week. But for me, I just kept feeding it even though it didn't look quite right. And now it's a fully formed sourdough starter. So that's what matters. So I'll show you guys how to make that now. So here I have my big jar and it's nice and clean. So I'm going to add 1/2 cup of flour. Let's see if I can get this in without spilling. Maybe get a bigger jar so you don't spill. Then you want to add 1/2 cup of water. Then just mix it up and let it sit. So we're gonna do this every day over the next 5 days. And I'll show you how the starter looks each day, so you know what to expect. You mainly just want to check the size of the bubbles and the texture of the dough. So this is what mine looks like right now. It's just kind of like sludge. Now you just want to loosely cover it, and then it won't explode and it'll be good to go. Here is my starter, and we're gonna go put it away and check on it again tomorrow. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. So here's my sourdough. I added this rubber band just so you can track like where your sourdough starter is and then how far it rises above the rubber band. And so you can see that mine rose like twice the size and then it's fallen back down. You can see there's small bubbles on the surface, which is good. And now we're just gonna feed it another 1/2 cup of flour and 1/2 cup of water. And usually you're supposed to throw out the discard, but I just keep it in there. So just mix it up. And as you can see, it's already starting to bubble up, which is good, and it shows that the fermenting process is happening. So this is so cool. I've actually never made my own starter before, so this is very exciting for me. Anyways, this is what it looks like now. There's like small bubbles on the surface, and we're gonna leave it for another day. And you can see the texture is like, doesn't just look like flour and water anymore. There's like a little bit of gloppiness to it, I guess. Yeah, it kind of looks like snot, as that's what my dad says. Then I'm just going to move the rubber band up to this new line, and we will check on it tomorrow. See how it goes. And we're good to go. See you guys tomorrow. So here is day 3. And as you can see, there's even more bubbles on the surface. So I'm just gonna feed it another 1/2 cup of flour and 1/2 cup of water. As I'm stirring it, there's more bubbles starting to form, which is good. It means that the yeast is like ready for more food. So this is what it looks like now, and we're gonna leave it for another day. So here is day 4. As you can see, it's like, well, it's bubbly, but this is a layer of like separated liquid and starter. So what I'm just gonna do is mix it back in. And it smells very funky, like kind of like cheesy. But yeah, I just mix it back in and there's a lot more bubbles now. And now I'm just going to add in more flour and water. This is what my starter looks like. As you can see, there's a lot of little small bubbles on the top, but after a few days, hopefully it'll be more lively. So we'll see you tomorrow. So this is day 5. I realized that I've been feeding it bleached flour instead of unbleached flour, so that's why it's so like liquidy still. I can't really find unbleached flour right now, so I'm just gonna continue to feed it and see where it goes from there. So today is day 8, I want to say, and the other day I realized that my sourdough starter was made from bleached flour instead of unbleached flour, so I still wanted to try it out and see if I would be able to build a sourdough starter from this. And this is what it looks like right now. As you can see, there's lots of small bubbles in it, which is okay, and it's like quite watery, which is not ideal. We're gonna keep feeding it and just see what happens. So if you look at the movement, it's just like very liquidy. Another half cup of flour and half cup of water. And now mine is quite full, so I'm probably gonna like toss some of it or like save it to make sourdough waffles. And I'll put a video up later, or you can watch my sourdough banana bread recipe, which will be here. I'm just gonna try and see if I can make this thing alive. I hope so. This is a lot of flour that's gotten into this, honestly. It's starting to smell more sour and like more yeasty. The other days it was smelling kind of cheesy, which I thought was really weird. So those bubbles forming, I think just means that my starter was hungry and now it is fed. And I'm pretty sure that's why my starter was so liquidy. There is yeast forming because of the bubbles, and it probably just ate all of the water and flour and just needs to be fed again. It smells kind of weird. I don't know, it smells very yeasty. Better than cheesy, I guess. And I really hope that this turns out well in the next few days. Well, I'm gonna put it away for another day and then check back on it later. Okay, bye. This is what my sourdough starter looks like today. And so there's some bubbles on the surface. The texture is kind of like a thick milkshake, I guess. And I'm just going to feed it again. So just some water. And then once I add the water, you see the big bubbles. And now some flour. This is not gonna turn out well. Dang it. Just mixing it in. And the texture gets like nice and thick right after, because it's gonna eat all of this flour and water mixture. And again, there's some more bubbles on the surface. It really is starting to smell like sourdough, so that's why I'm like, I have a bit more faith that it's growing still. But yeah, just try not to get discouraged. Even if it looks like nothing is happening, it could just be happening slowly. This is day 12, 13, I don't know, it's almost been 2 weeks. But this is what my sourdough starter looks like now. As you can see, there's lots of activity on the surface. There's lots of bubbles, which is good. So on the sides here, there's a little bit of bubbles as well, which is pretty good. And then it smells very yeasty. So I think this is a pretty good amount of activity. I mean, for almost 2 weeks, it's not that much, but I did use bleached flour, so I was expecting a lot. I was expecting it to take a lot longer. I mean, I used it recently to make like sourdough waffles, and they had the holes that I wanted. So that was good. And then I used it to make sourdough banana bread, and that turned out well as well. But I think my starter is active. It just needs a little bit more time before I think it can like raise an entire loaf of bread. So we'll just keep feeding it and see where it goes from there. So I have about half a cup of flour. Oh, this is getting really full. And then half a cup of water. I'm gonna mix it up. If you look at it, it's really starting to like bubble and foam as I mix in this flour and water, which is good because it just shows that my starter is hungry and it needs to be fed, which is exactly what we're doing. And then for this sourdough starter, like I've been feeding it kind of randomly throughout each day. Like sometimes I'll feed it in the early afternoon, sometimes I'll feed it in the evening. To me, it doesn't really matter as long as you feed it once a day. Like, it just needs food and you need to feed it, basically. I don't think you should trip too hard about like, oh, I fed it at this time and I have to feed it at this time the next day and all of that stuff. Like, treat it like a plant. Feed it and it will grow. And if you don't feed it, it could die, but just make sure to feed it and you'll be fine. So it smells very sour, which is good. And this is how it looks like. I would treat your sourdough starter like a plant and not like a pet. Because like a pet, you need to make sure to like feed it and then walk it and then all of this stuff. But a plant, you kind of just like water it or feed it and then you leave it. You let it do its thing. And then you come back to it the next day and you're like, oh, I have to feed you again. So yeah, that is my analogy. I do not know if that makes sense, but this is my plant, I guess. Okay, I'm gonna go now, bye. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Okay, so now we're back and hopefully this is the final day. I fed it yesterday night. I fed it like half a cup of flour, half a cup of water, just mixed it up, and this is what it looks like now. So there's quite a bit of bubbles on the surface, which is good. There's like a little bit of bubbles on the sides, as you were seeing before. And I'm going to do the float test. I'm just going to take a little bit from the very top. I haven't mixed it or anything because you want to keep all the bubbles intact. And then just try and like drop it on top. And you can see my sourdough starter is floating quite well actually, which is kind of a shocker to me. This is considered a ripe sourdough starter and we can use it to make bread, which is super exciting. Yeah, I made my own sourdough starter. This is so cool. Since I used bleached flour instead of unbleached flour like a week and a half in, I was just like, this is never gonna work. It's not gonna work because I'd read so many, I don't know, forums or whatnot, and people are like, it's really hard to make a sourdough starter with bleached flour, like there's no nutrients for your bacteria and yeast to eat and grow from. So I was just like, it's not gonna work, but it worked, and now I can make sourdough bread, and you guys can make sourdough bread too. This is so cool. Thank you for following me on this journey to make a sourdough starter. This is what it looks like. Look at all of the bubbles. So cool. So I hope you guys like this video and you'll hit the like button and then also subscribe to my channel. This just shows you that you can also build a sourdough starter even if you have bleached flour. It just takes a little bit more time. Basically with sourdough, just be patient and let it do its thing, because then you'll have a jar of sourdough. Okay, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!